Oh my God, the conversation. We are back together again, and I am so happy that you are here. Every week, I am blessed to be able to have a conversation with a champion in the various realms of social, political, economic, and environmental justice. And sisters and brothers, family and friends, do I have a champion for you today? Now, I just got to get this off my chest. I do have a cold. Okay, I've been battling this thing for about the last 2 weeks. So if I sound a little nasally, that is why. I assure you, it is only a cold. A sister been tested and retested and overtested and tested. I'm tested and I'm boosted too. But I do have a cold. Now, with that out of the way, I have a son of Baton Rouge, Louisiana in the house on the conversation tonight. None other than activist extraordinaire. He also ran for Congress in that great state. The one and only Gary Chambers. Gary, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, my sister. It's good to be with you. How are you?
It's good to be with you too. I'm mighty fine. Other than the cold that I'm battling, I'm all right. How was your holiday?
It was good. It was good. Low key, Omicron everywhere, so I just kind of stayed at the house and chilled. And Zoe got the things she asked for Christmas, so I'm good. I cannot complain.
All is well. That's good. Zoe happy, all is well.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Your most important title, Dad.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. My most important title is Mom. And as you know, and many people know, that title of Yaya. Okay.
No
Not
doubt.
quite ready to go. Yeah, very, very important. So oh my God, where to start? You definitely have been blazing a trail well before you became a social media sensation. You were out there doing the work. And sometimes people, just because they come into an awareness, they're thinking, oh, this person just got started. No, you've been out there for a while, letting that little light of yours shine brightly for people who need voice. You've been giving voice to a whole lot of folks. I first kind of met you on social media, and that is when you were giving them hell at a school board meeting. And I don't want to steal your thunder because I just cannot possibly do that. But I think a lot of people came into the knowledge of who Mr. Gary Chambers was from you raising a whole lot of good hell at the school board meeting. We're gonna play a little bit of that clip.
Next. So I had intended to get up here and talk about how racist Robert E. Lee was, but I'm gonna talk about you, Connie. Sitting over there shopping while we talking about Robert E. Lee. This is a picture of you shopping while we talking about racism and history in this country. Only white members of this board got up while we were up here talking too, because you don't give a damn, and it's clear. But I'm gonna tell you what the slaves, my ancestors, said about Robert E. Lee, since you don't know history, sister. Let me tell you that they said when he got the plantation, after he got off the field where 27,000 people died at Gettysburg, Connie, Robert E. Lee was a brutal slave master. Not only did when he whooped the slaves, he said, lay it on them hard. After he said, lay it on them hard, he said, put brine on them so it'll burn them. That's what Robert E. Lee did. And you set your arrogant self in here and sit on there shopping while the pain and the hurt of the people of this community is on display because you don't give a damn and you should resign.
Wow. I mean, you really set that place on fire. And just in case people don't know, Robert E. Lee was a Confederate general of the Confederate States of America, those 11 states that decided they were going to cede the Union over slavery, and not even about the good parts of slavery either. It was about their right to continue to enslave our ancestors. And I mean, you laid it down. It wasn't just for Connie, even though Connie got called out special. It was really for that entire board. What motivated you to bring such fire and just like it was a righteous indignation as far as I'm concerned. And so many other people who were introduced to you in that moment felt the same way. What made you do that?
We had been trying to change the name of that school for several years. And Connie had been a part of those conversations. And the truth of the matter is I was just pissed off that night that, we're sitting here, we're discussing this important issue to us as a community. And the audacity that you would sit there and shop while literally your colleague is expressing her perspective and her viewpoint on this. And Connie had gone on the news and kind of tried to defend Lee the day before, and our feathers were ruffled about that. And before this video, Connie and I actually had a good relationship. Before she was all over the internet and everybody knew her name. But it's really because if you don't check those things when they happen, people believe that is acceptable behavior. And my mama kind of raised me under the notion that if you act up in private, I'm gonna deal with you in private. If you act up in public, I'm gonna deal with you in public. And what she had done was a public act to disrespect us. And I also knew that she lies, and that if I didn't confront her directly then, that she would try to wiggle and lie her way out of it, which she did lie later. And then computer records showed that she was shopping for, an extended period of time during the meeting. And for those who have consistently asked me, did she resign? No, but we do have an opportunity to defeat her at the ballot box in November of 2022. And I firmly believe she will be defeated.
Yeah, I mean, and just the way you were a regular person that was concerned about the hurt in the community, having a discussion about the name of the school, and you just kept it so plain. And I think a lot of times, especially people who are Democrats or people who feel as though they gotta polish that thing up, sometimes you lose the common touch. You channel, like I'm sure you channeled the pain and the feelings of most people who were both in that audience and who also had an opportunity to hear you just laid it down straight, no chaser, And I got that same grandma too, and mama. My mama, my grandma came from the South. My mama was born in the North, but my grandmother hailed from the South. So them Southern tendencies are very much embedded. And my mama and my grandma subscribe to that same rule. If you act up, where you act up is where I'm gonna show up on you. I remember my mama walking through the Woolworths. Wasn't me, because I was a damn near perfect child, but it was my sibling, Brother Chambers. It was them. And my mama would go over to the belt section, tell the lady, "Hold on, I just want to borrow this."
I just need to use this for a second. I just need to use this for a second.
I ain't gonna buy it. I just need to borrow it. But that was old school. So, right, you show out on me in public, I am gonna show you better than I can tell you. But what you did to lift that community and bring voice to people who may not have been able to stand up there and articulate, and you laid down the history as you were peeling back the layers and really revealing to that school board that what you are doing in the behavior of your colleague is not acceptable when people are talking to. Last time I checked, school board members were public servants. I mean, last time I checked. And not to give the public your undivided attention when you are at work is totally disrespectful. So what motivates you? That wasn't your only motivation. What drives Gary Chambers on a regular basis?
I think a desire to just see a more prosperous community for all people. I grew up in North Baton Rouge, and I remember when we moved into the community that I live in, there were grocery stores within 2 miles of my home. There was an emergency room within 3 miles of my home. And as I got older, I saw grocery stores close. I saw movie theaters and shopping centers close, and hospital ERs closed. And I started asking questions as I got into my late 20s. Why is it this way in this side of town and not this way on the other side of town? And as a taxpayer, I kind of just started showing up, speaking about different things in my community. I didn't even know it was really advocacy or activism at the time. I just had a platform that people would listen to me. And so the more information I learned, the more information I shared. And then I kept going. It wasn't that I sat one day and said, "Oh, I want to be an activist." It was kind of as if duty had called me to the fight, and I just hadn't stopped showing up ever since. And I think that's kind of true for many people who end up in these positions. The work kind of calls you to it. You don't necessarily call yourself to it.
So you would say it's fair to say that activism grabbed you. You didn't grab it.
I found out I was an activist in the newspaper, actually. So that would certainly be accurate. I was reading the paper one day and it said activist Gary Chambers. I said, "Oh, that's what this is, huh?"
That's what I am.
Yeah.
Standing up for the people. And something that, caught my eye about the model for your organization, Do Good and Seek Justice, not just for your organization. I think you live your life that way. When you were running for Congress, I mean, again, you shook that entire community. You brought a certain type of light there. And another thing that really attracted me to your spirit is during that primary earlier this year, you didn't wait for the next progressive in the race to come in and get you. You went to her and said, I wanted to be the one going head to head in the general, but it's you. And so I'm not going to wait for you to come get me. I'm coming to you, and I'm going to do everything that I can to help you win. A lot of people who compete in that way would never have done. It's rare, I will say, for for candidates to do what you did. What made you do that?
Well, I think, you have to do some inventory on yourself and ask yourself, are you really who you say you are, right? And that if I believe in the ideals that we are fighting for Medicare for all and a Green New Deal and a livable wage for all American people and the things that, I have picked up this flag that you and others have been carrying the torch on, that when we don't win, we can't just pick up our toys and go home. That, yes, do I feel that I was the most progressive candidate in the race? Absolutely. But after voters have gone into a ballot box and made their decision, if the things that we want are still on the line and there's somebody that can help push the line to help us get there, that is the work. And the work is bigger than our ego, than our personality, than our feelings, right? It did not feel good to lose. And it certainly did not feel good to put aside my emotions so quickly and go into campaigning for someone else. But I really believe in these things that I'm fighting for. And if I believe in these things to that degree, then it is incumbent upon me to lead by example. And the other thing is leadership requires that we set an example, right? That if there are people watching us, that if there's another generation coming behind us, or a generation that is currently coming of itself, right? What are we saying to them when we don't navigate those waters in a way that does what is best for all people? What is politically expedient for me probably was to just go home and endorse nobody, because I had done enough to make people respect what work we put in, right? And others on my team and some folks said, Gary, we think you should stay out of this, but I just couldn't. It wouldn't leave me. And so I believe we did do what was best in that situation, which is fight for those ideals. The person I supported still didn't win. The establishment won. But I think that we have pushed the current congressman further to the left than he ever would have been had we not campaigned the way we did and had we not pushed the issues even until the finish line. And so he has been much more engaged in the community. And I believe that heard many of the things that we said. And so you got to know when you're a spiritual person, there's a season and a time for everything. And I trust the Lord with everything. And so it just wasn't my season. And my job now is to do everything I can to make sure that while we're in this season, that the people get everything they can out of the government that they pay into.
I totally agree with you. And you have traveled the country since. I mean, you didn't just rest on your laurels and say, oh, I didn't get it, or the candidate that I supported didn't get it either. I'm done. You traveled this country, west, east, near and far, and you actually came on into the great state of Ohio, into Cleveland, Ohio, to help your dear sister. And I really appreciated that. So, I mean, you did not rest. You went from your race to supporting Sister Karen Carter Peterson to traveling this country. Bigger Than Me is another organization that you have, and you were showing people by example that it is bigger than you, and embracing issues, not just people like me running for office, but other activists and other issues that people were standing up for, but you did find your way. You said, "Sister, if you need me, I'm coming to Cleveland, Ohio," and you did just that. And I am forever grateful to you, again, leading by example, going into other places to help other progressives try to do the daggone thing. We were in the line then together this year in 2021.
I had a good time knocking doors in Akron, and
Yes.
and the energy that exists there is real. And when you have an opportunity, you're someone I look up to. I've told you that in private. I can say it publicly. That there's no question for me that I'm gonna show up and support what I consider the queen mother of this movement right now. I'm gonna show up in my uniform, ready to serve, because that's what this is about. That we have to do the work that's necessary, and it's a sacrifice, right? That we have to make collective sacrifice in order to have collective gain. And I don't think that, I'm 36. I'm not sure that my generation always fully understands that as much as the generations that have come before us. And so
why don't they? Why doesn't your generation maybe sort of kind of don't understand the word
I think
sacrifice?
that there's a gap in the teaching that the elders used to spend a lot more time coaching, developing, and training people, I think, than what happens today. That a lot of our younger people are kind of feeling it out on their own. When I first got into this, there was not like a legacy organization that was extremely strong that I could go sit before the elders and learn a lot of these things. I kind of got into the fight, and then along the way, elders kind of grabbed me and taught me and gave me the information. And so there's a lot of old people, very few elders. And I'm looking for, I have had the benefit of gleaning from some of them, but I think it's about us making sure that when we learn this information that we freely give it. And some of that has been because certain elders have been burned along the way too, that they have shared of themselves and leaned into others, and that not always worked out the way that they had hoped or desired. And so sometimes it makes us go into our silos, and we just got to work through that, and that's not easy. That's not always fun. The sausage making of this is messy, but it can be beautiful if we put in the time to work past that hard stuff. And so I'm just trying to set the example so that when I hear people talk about young voters in particular and saying well, they don't show up or they're not engaged, part of the question is we got to teach that. We got to teach that longevity and that consistency. We have to set that example for them, and I believe they will follow.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the whole mix of old school, new school, I think should be utilized in this moment. And what I mean by that, certainly when we look back on the civil rights movement, we saw that teaching that you are talking about. Like my generation, Generation X, is the first generation to be the beneficiaries of that generation. When you look at the freedom schools, before they went to lunch counters, for the most part, any activity or action that they were going to take, people were fully trained about what to expect in that moment and the type of endurance and how they had to comport themselves so that the justice side could win. And it was a lot of pressure because to expect people to allow themselves to be called the N-word or have hot coffee thrown on you or to have somebody spit on you or all up in your face and those kinds of things. They didn't just send people into that madness. They trained them. They went through rigorous understanding, role playing about what they were going to have to endure before they went into those moments. And we don't have something on par. You're right about that. Mixing it with 21st century, but we don't have anything on par that I can think of right now, not in mass anyway, that gets another generation trained up.
And it matters. It matters. It determines whether or not people are prepared for what they're walking into, right? And the reality is, I showed up at my first protest and nobody had ever told me that the police are going to antagonize you the whole time you're out here. Nobody had ever told me that. I had to figure that out on the streets. Nobody had ever told me the emotions that our people go through when they show up at that protest and how to navigate the conversations, even with the people that are on your side, to get them to understand how we do this in concert. And so after going through some of these things, I realized, we really need some examples set before us. And there's two things you can do. You can sit around and talk about what everybody else isn't doing, or you can get off your tail and do something.
There it is.
I have chosen to try to be on the side of get off your tail and do something. I am not always successful. I have not been perfect in my quest to become a better leader. I've missed the mark along the way, but I've tried to correct my mistakes when I make them, own them when I make them, and then be as transparent with people as possible so that others don't make those same mistakes. Because if I can make your journey a little shorter and a little easier, then that means that somebody else's path to liberation is easier.
Come on, you better talk about that. And that is the beautiful thing about who you are and the leadership standard that you are setting as you are pulling people as you climb as well. Now, what is it about? 2022 is right around the corner. We're gonna say Happy New Year to some folks. I know it, but it will be here. This on Saturday, as a matter of fact. What is there anything that you're looking forward to in 2022? Anything you want to let us know about here on the conversation for 2022?
So I think we're gonna need another conversation in a few weeks for sure. So we're gonna do some great things in 2022. But to some of what we just tapped on, I really want to do a few civic engagement workshops around the country. That's something that hopefully I can tap on you and some others to help chime in, because I really think that it is not that people don't want the information. They don't necessarily know where to get it all the time, or how do they get active in their community. The number one thing I'm always asked is, how did you get into activism? And really, I just started showing up. And what you find out when you show up, and you know this from serving in the legislature and other places, it's the same people who show up all the time. And when you show up, you meet those people, and that kindred spirit, that energy becomes transferable, but that knowledge becomes transferable also. And so I want to be able to help transfer some of that knowledge in 2022, among other things that we want to do pretty big here in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're doing that already. Each one reach one, each one teach one. And you are certainly personifying that. People are feeling very stressful, Mr. Gary Chambers Jr. What's the word? What's the word about the stress and the heaviness and some people feeling as though better days are not coming?
I use a hashtag all the time that says keep pushing. And when people ask me, how are you doing today or whatever, I always say I'm pushing. Whether it's a good day or a bad day, I'm pushing. And my grandmother, she passed away at the beginning of 2021. And she used to always tell me, baby, keep going to sleep and getting up in the morning. It does get. And my encouragement to anybody is that if you keep going to sleep and getting up in the morning and you keep pushing, it might not feel good today. Some days you might not be able to push as hard. You can't lift the load as heavy. But if you keep going to sleep and getting up in the morning and you keep pushing, I promise you it will get better.
Well, amen to that. Well, we're going to let Grandma have the last word on that. The word for the day, for the show, is keep pushing. Mr. Gary Chambers Jr., how do people reach you on social media?
At Gary Chambers Jr. on everything. And thank you so much, Senator, for allowing me to close out the year with you. I appreciate all that you are for us as a people in the country.
Well, back at you. You are, you're just getting started. So we are looking forward to hearing more about your great journey in 2022 and all the things that you are going to continue to do, not only to lift your community, but also to lift this great nation, and dare I say the world. Oh my God, family, conversation family. This is it for this particular week with yours truly, TNT or SNT. I don't know what they call it. I don't know. I kind of like the TNT explosion, baby. That is it. It was so great to be with my dear brother Gary Chambers Jr. from the great state of Louisiana, and so wonderful to be with all of you. We both want to wish you a happy, successful new year, and the TYT team as well. This has been The Conversation. We want you to keep the faith, but most importantly, keep the fight.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.